أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is Shamshad Ali, Department of Technology, Surrey University. Today we are going to learn about the environmental legislation. This is our week 2nd and our lecture 2nd for the 7th semester for the program of the BSc Engineering Technology 7. You can access this lecture at portal.suit.edu.pt. So let's begin. Okay. Environmental law. Basically, as we know that to manage something properly or to keep a community managed, laws play an important role. So to keep environment clean and focus on environmental issues, environmental law becomes a demand. The importance of environmental law is shown by that many Western countries, as we know, that many Western countries schools now offer environmental law courses. Law is basically adopting to meet the demands of environmental management. Law should provide a framework for regulating the use of the environment. This is basically the reference which I have taken from these researchers. Law is crucial for environmental management in a number of ways, helping. Okay, so environmental management may involve number of resources development situations. Law is crucial for environmental management in a number of ways, helping regulation of resources use. Meaning your resources have been used and they are in regulation. Protection of the environment and biodiversity. Facilitation, conflict resolution and conciliation. Formulation of stable, unambiguous undertakings and agreements. Now, environmental management may involve a number of resources development situations, for example, individually owned or private resources, national resources, shared resources, open access resources, common property resources, global resources, etc. There are different legal systems, for example, based on Roman law, on customary law, Islamic law, the Code Napoleon, etc. To name but a few, environmental managers may have to work with unfamiliar national or local laws, or they may have to seek agreement between parties with different legal systems. Remember, some countries have legal systems that combine more than one of these, say, indigenous and colonial era legislation plus Islamic law. Areas may be subject to state and federal laws, and to secular and religious laws. In most countries, statutory law is written by politicians and passed by the national legislature, and judges compile common law. Okay, so basically law can encourage, okay, without effective legislation, resources use, pollution control, conservation, and most fields of human activity are likely to fall into cause and conflicts. Law can encourage satisfactory performance, enable authorities to punish those who infringe environmental management legislation. Some countries have been active in developing environmental management law, notably Sweden, the Netherlands, the USA, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Some environmental laws are ancient, as we know about them. Indian rulers promulgated controls on hunting and forest felling centuries ago. I mean, they want to control the hunting and forest felling, that they want to regulate that to the forest become safe. The UK had local pollution control laws as early as the 12th centuries AD and passed nationally enforced pollution control legislation such as the Alkali Act 1863, over a century ago. Okay, for this, most legislation involves in response to problems, so there is often delay between need and the establishment of satisfactory law. Some sectors are relatively new and are developing at a rapid rate, making it difficult for legislation to keep pace. Biotechnology is one of such cases. Particularly genetic engineering, rich and poor countries are trying to pass laws to prevent accidents and misuse and to ensure biosafety. The Cartagena Biosafety Protocol was signed in 2000. This is basically history which I am going to tell you about, to help control risk associated with genetically modified organisms. GMOs, we are already familiar with it, and the sustainable use of biodiversity. For example, requiring assessment of GMO before there is any risk of escape. There are gaps in the 2000 agreements in some non-signatory nations. Without effective legislation, resources use, pollution control, conservation, as we study in this slide, and most fields of human activity are likely to fall into cause and conflicts. Law can encourage satisfactory, as we studied before. It may also possible for employees by standards and products or service use to suffer for damage if they are harmed. Existing laws are, remember this, existing laws are predominantly anthropocentric, putting human needs before environment rather than ecocentric. This is, remember this, that existing laws are predominantly anthropocentric, putting human needs before environment rather than ecocentric. So moving on to our next topic, which is the National Environmental Policy Act. It is United States environmental law, the NEPA, which is known as NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act. It basically promotes the enhancement of the environment and establishes the President's Council on Environmental Quality, CEQ, Council on Environmental Quality. It was enacted on January 1st, 1970. Okay, so basically the discussion leading to NEPA began in the early 1960s. This is a prehistory, when the need was perceived for the USA to make a basic declaration of national environmental policy and an action forcing provision. The US government was largely reacting to public opinion that conventional planning did not adequately take account of the environment. It has already had responsibility to steward resources and protect the environment under the public trust doctrine. However, before NEPA, the USA had little effective federal control over the environment and lacked land use regulation, which some other countries had. NEPA was signed into US law on 1st January 1970, as we already discussed. It was enacted to perform federal policy making and influence the private sector to reorientate values. It was originally intended that NEPA would change the nature of federal decision making. However, it has become more of a procedure requirement. These are basically differences which I have taken. One of the architects of NEPA felt that had it not happened in the USA, something similar would have appeared elsewhere. Okay. Now, NEPA required environmental impact assessment. This is important. Why? To federally funded projects that might significantly affect the environment. A message to officials to look before you leave. NEPA Section 101. The NEPA has many sections, but these are most important, and we are going to discuss. NEPA Section 101 set regulation to protect the environment. Basically, Section 101 is to protect the environment. Section 102 2C ensured they were pursued, and Section 103 included provision for environmental impact assessment statements to be challenged in court. You can challenge the environmental impact assessment statement in court. Okay. This happened a lot at first because NEPA was untested and used expressions such as significant and human environment that were poorly defined. There was also some need to clarify which developments required environmental impact assessment. Before the project, I am going to tell you that environmental impact assessment is basically a assessment which is being taken before the project. When a project is proposed, environmental impact assessment team combinedly assess the environmental effect of that proposed project. So for the NEPA, the environmental impact assessment is mandatory. and it is important basically. Okay, and how, and we are at that there was also some need to clarify which developments required environmental impact assessment, and how and by whom it was to be conducted. Firstly, in environmental impact assessment. Firstly in the National Environmental Policy Act. Virtually, the first use of the expression environmental impact assessment occurs in Section 102(2)(c) of NEPA, which requires US federal agencies to prepare an environmental impact statement, EIS, environmental impact statement. Okay, using EIA, environmental impact assessment, prior to taking action. Okay. Next, basically, okay, here. Provision was made for the establishment of the US Council on Environmental Quality, CEQ. Next slide, inshallah, we will discuss, which was to advise the US President on the environment, review the environmental impact assessment process, review drafts, environmental impact statements, and see that NEPA was followed. In addition, in 1970, the US government created the US Environmental Protection Agency, EPA basically. It's brief to coordinate the attack on environmental pollution and to be responsible for the environmental impact assessment process. NEPA was the first time US law had really allowed for development to be delayed or abandoned for the long-term good of the environment, and for efforts to be made to coordinate public, state, federal, and local activities. Now, effectively, NEPA put environmental quality on a level with economic growth, a revolution in values in a country where state intrusion was enabled. For this reason, many see it as a sort of Magna Carta, although it stopped short of making a healthy environment constitutional right. Public participation is written into NEPA to the extent that it might be described as a cornerstone. Okay, now we are going to learn about the main contents in the National Environmental Policy Act. This is basically the contents in the main contents in the National Environmental Policy to declare national policy which will encourage productive and enjoyable harmony between man and his environment. This policy has to declare those policies which will encourage productive and enjoyable harmony between the man and his environment, to promote efforts which will prevent or eliminate damage to the environment and biosphere, stimulate the health and welfare of the man. These are the main content in the National Environmental Policy Act has to promote efforts. They will encourage those efforts which will prevent, eliminate damage to the environment and biosphere, the earth, and stimulate the health and welfare of the man. To enrich the understanding of the ecological systems and natural resources important to the nation, and to establish a council on environmental quality, and to enrich the understanding of the ecological system. Ecological system, as we have discussed, that the relationship between the living and their environment is called ecosystem, and the study of that system is called ecology. So to bring understanding about the ecological system and natural resources. Forests are our natural resources. Sea, rivers, mountains, they are our natural resources. So to bring the importance of those natural resources and ecological system to the nation and to establish a council on environmental quality. Now there are sections in the National Environmental Policy Act. There are the three sections. There are three sections. NEPA contains three sections. The first one section outlines national environmental policies and goals, mean to bring policies and goals about the environment nationally. They outline those policies. The second establishes provisions for federal agencies to enforce such policies and goals. To establish provision for federal agencies to enforce such policies and goals. First, policies and goals are made. Secondly, federal agencies are bounded to enforce such policies and goals. The third content is to establishment of the Council on Environmental Quality. Okay, to establish a council which will regulate those policies and those goals, and also these federal agencies. And that council is named as Council on Environmental Quality. Okay, so that is it. In next class, inshallah, we will learn about the Pakistan Environmental Protection Act, which is PEPA. It was enacted in 1997. So hope you guys learn something about the environmental legislation, the rules regulation about the environment, the National Environmental Policy Act, and in next class we will learn about the Pakistan Environmental Protection Act. So thank you so much. If you have any question about this lecture, so kindly ask it at portal.su.edu.wiki.